Hello everybody, and today I'll be attempting to play some games on an Intel integrated graphics chip. However, this isn't a more modern IGP, such as the Intel UHD 630. This is the Intel GMA 3100 from all the way back in 2007. It wasn't very good at the time of its release, and it sure hasn't gotten better. It was based on the Generation 4.0 Bear Lake architecture, as well as the 90nm process, and in terms of specs, had about what you'd expect in terms of low-end performance from that time period. The IGP had a core clock of 400 MHz, 4 pixel shaders, no vertex shaders, 4 texture mapping units, 4 render output units, supported up to DirectX 9, and utilized shared system memories, since after all, it is an IGP. The computer which I'll be doing the testing on today is a pre-built, the Dell Inspiron 530, but the IGP in question was found on the G31, G32, Q33, and the Q35 chipsets. Regardless, the CPU of this system is the Core 2 Quad Q6600, along with 4 2GB sticks of DDR2 for the CPU to work with. That's a total of 8GB of RAM in the system, more than even a high-end computer from that 2007 timeframe would have, so the RAM likely isn't going to be the limiting factor of the GMA 3100's performance. And considering the rest of the computer's specs, the integrated graphics is definitely going to be the bottleneck of the system. Now, onto the first impressions. How did the GMA 3100 perform when I first booted up the system? Actually, surprisingly well, but this was probably due to my very low expectations. Dragging windowed applications around on the desktop was very smooth and didn't ghost whatsoever, and 1080p video playback ran just fine. But you know what didn't run fine? The entire system's audio for some reason. I don't know why, but I've never had this issue with this build before. I figured that maybe this was due to some weird driver issue and hopped into Device Manager to make sure that everything was up to date. It said that everything was fine, but the problem persisted, so I manually located and downloaded the drivers only to find out that the ones I downloaded were older than the ones that were already installed. But it's whatever, I'm just here to try and see if this 13-year-old IGP can run some games, so let's do just that. But before that, make sure that you subscribe below and maybe leave a comment, because even little interactions like that can help small creators like me. Thanks. I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is that we got some games to run, emphasis on the word some. Bad news is that 80% of anything I tried to play on this computer just didn't work at all. We'll start with the games that ran well: Terraria, Quake 2, Serious Sam the First Encounter, and Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon. That's it. Out of all of them, Terraria ran the worst, but was actually still pretty good with an average frame rate of 37 FPS. This was with all the lowest settings in a resolution of 1024 by 768, and although lowering it more did increase the frame rate, I think that the sweet spot between performance and looks is right here. Next up was Quake 2, a game a full decade older than the GMA 3100 with such low minimum system requirements could hypothetically run the game on a 16MB graphics card. Because of its age and its low requirements, I cranked up all the settings to their highest but maintained the resolution of 1024 by 768, achieving an average frame rate of 41 FPS. Even though the GMA 3100 couldn't reach the ideal 60 FPS average, the game ran great and was stable throughout. Another game that ran very well on the system was Serious Sam the First Encounter. The average frame rate of this gameplay test was an impressive 88 FPS, but with a resolution of 640 by 480, this was to be expected. I would have and wanted to increase the resolution, but whenever I changed it in the menus, the game would instantly crash. This was because whenever I changed it, it automatically tabbed me out then back into the game, which for some reason would just always cause it to crash. The final game I was able to get running well on this system was Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon. This game debuted in 2001 and had very low requirements when compared to the components available in the test system. The game ran well, and I was able to gun down my teammates at a smooth frame rate which I could estimate at or above 60 FPS. The frame rate overlay refused to work with this game, but this sometimes happens with older games, so I suppose it's not too out of the ordinary. Those were the only 4 games I was able to get running well off the GMA 3100 IGP. I tested some others though, and their issues were quite unique. To start, Just Cause 1 refused to launch under any circumstances. I would click the executable and nothing would happen. For Unreal Tournament, it would throw up a general protection fault error, which at first made me think that the file integrity had been compromised. However, after reading the short history, words like a software render device point the blame at the IGP instead. Remember the audio issues that I explained to you earlier? Well, here they are again, and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas refused to boot without an audio card installed. GTA 3 also didn't comply with the system, and upon starting the game up, it would just instantly crash. No errors, no anything, just gone. After that was Mountain Blade Warband, which hypothetically could have run on this system, and with the lowest settings, the game even started to load. But like many others, the game would inevitably crash before loading into the actual gameplay. I then tried running some Valve games, started with Left 4 Dead 2. I don't know why I thought this game would run, and clearly it was completely unplayable with an average frame rate of 0 FPS. Also, when I launched the game, the opening cutscene played over every other application on the computer, and I couldn't skip it or tab out to end the process. Another Valve game I tried playing was Half-Life 1, and its average frame rate of 16 FPS was quite disappointing. I'm sure that this IGP has the capability to run the game, but something on the software level is very wrong. The game was run with the lowest settings in a resolution of 320 by 240, and for some reason the GPU was detected as running at 0%. Seeing this, I tried to change to the software renderer, but I messed up the resolution so badly I couldn't even select the option to do so. The problems in this test were identical to the problems in the following Counter-Strike 1.6 test, except in that one, I couldn't even click the button to get into a game. I tried Half-Life 2 though, which got an average frame rate of 1 FPS in the lowest settings and 480p on the title screen. Given this, I didn't even bother to try and load the game. An interesting thing about this test, which I also noticed in a few others as well, is that when I started up the game and a proper load was put onto the IGP, its usage would just flatline for no reason whatsoever. I don't know why this would happen, but for like the 30 people who actually watched the video, let me know what you think in the comments below. The final game I tried to run on this computer was Far Cry 1. With all the lowest settings in a resolution of 600 by 800, the frame rate was 30 FPS in the opening room. However, after the door opened and the outside foliage had to be rendered, the frame rate plummeted into the lower single digits. So unless you want to stare at the ground to get anything higher than 5 FPS, I recommend that you don't even try to run this game on the GMA 3100. So that's the kind of gaming that can be achieved on the Intel GMA 3100. It's pretty bad. I mean, its performance in some games wasn't terrible, but I'm sure in the games that had the option available would have run better with the software renderer than the OpenGL renderer. Some of these games even refused to launch at all, and although I don't know specifically why, I think it may be due to a few different things. Initially, I thought that it might be due to potentially messed up drivers, and I did reinstall them, but this didn't change anything. Another hypothesis I have about this issue is that it could be due to the IGP's lack of vertex shaders. I don't know everything about GPUs, but I'm pretty sure those are important, so that might have contributed to the issue. Another potential problem could stem from its OpenGL limitations, since the GMA 3100 only supports up to OpenGL 1.4, which was released back in 2002, and many of the games I tested came out well after the newer OpenGL versions were released. I don't know why an IGP from 2007 would only support up to a 2002 version of OpenGL, but it does, and this might have also affected the benchmarks. Overall, I was pretty disappointed with the performance of my GMA 3100. I looked at a few gameplay examples on YouTube, and generally they all perform better, but that may be due to a different operating system, or maybe my hardware is just faulty. Still, my GMA 3100 was able to run some games, so I guess the testing wasn't a complete bust. But hey, did you know that I upload multiple unlisted videos to the channel? Probably not, because they have basically no views, but you can find these videos in the Discord exclusive channel of the official J9 Discord server, link in description. Regardless, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Also, please leave a comment below, because the interactions with viewers will help boost this video in the YouTube algorithm, and I guarantee that I'll respond to your comments. While you're at it, please subscribe, because that helps a lot in video quality and production, and also positively affects my day. Finally, leave any questions or suggestions in the comments below, and have a great day. Bye.